Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and the article I am about to read should frighten most people and make them acutely aware that everything I have been warning about within this military-industrial complex, the true deep state, the way the nation actually works through secret military programs, fusion centers, private organizations, all enabled progressively by different steps to bring in what is now a total surveillance state. We're there. Okay, we're there, and now we're fighting the medical martial law tyranny that's coming with it. And this article is talking about something called signature reduction. And I was put onto it by Annie Jacobson, who I've talked about many times on this program, who I encourage everybody to check out her books or her audiobooks. They are the real deal. And essentially what happened was I began following her on Twitter after she made a really, really interesting post, in my opinion. Now, first of all, I wanted to see what she had to say lately. I'd been watching some lectures of hers. She has a new book out. The book is now in audio. It takes about 12 hours to listen to it. She reads it. You can get it on Amazon. And it talks about Afghanistan, DARPA, biometrics, and a whole lot more. So she noticed, and this, ill-begotten, somehow forgotten story of the pipe bomber at the Capitol. The night before January 6th, somebody put down pipe bombs that never went off, that were somehow intercepted. But we never arrested anybody at all for that. Now, she said this person knows how to get around biometrics and surveillance. Well, guess what? There's a whole division of different, unaccountable, secret people out there that are doing this against United States citizens in this country right now. And it's a highly classified program, right? These are the special access programs. And before we read this, I want to give people just a little bit of a timeline on, where this military-industrial complex goes after beginning to get out of control in the Eisenhower era, where he saw that a scientific elite could take over, okay? Because, yes, Annie Jacobson was right to do something on Area 51. That's clearly when intelligence and the military shifted into an even more compartmentalization. And so much has been hidden throughout the years with that base in not only propulsion systems, right? Not only weapons, but human experimentation underground at black sites like that one and others, okay? So let's fast forward quite a bit after that, and let's get to where this network, right, still, is running black operations where they might get caught on, a.k.a. Iran-Contra, right? And it's in that era that they use something called the National Programs Office. People like Dick Cheney, Paul Wolfowitz, Donald Rumsfeld, and others to start creating these sub-organizations and creating what is, known as the shadow government. Okay, the shadow government that had its coming out party on 9/11. Now, they'd already used Promise software, Carnivore software. We knew about Hepting versus AT&T. So the infrastructure was there spying on us before. Make no mistake about it. But after 9/11, everything got legitimized. And again, 9/11 is mentioned in this article. This is going to be a long one, guys. It took me probably about 20, 30 minutes to read this on my own last night, fully through. Okay? Once Homeland Security is in there, that's when you see even more privatized think tanks and intelligence organizations and front groups. Now, traditionally, you did have these via the CIA, right, and other intelligence operations. They're huge now. They're huge. And from people sitting on a computer with full digital identities that you would never be able to tell, being keyboard warriors to disrupt people, to keep narratives, to interject false ones, to surveil, all that, right? That's real. But then you start getting into, and this is real too, full identity access in different, how do I say this? In different data centers, right? So you have a data center where you need a passport for somebody. It used to be you just needed the actual physical passport and a picture, and usually you get away with that. No. They can actually access data centers, change identities in them, then go back and then change them back. They talk about that. They talk about actual spycraft. Now, we've talked about the CIA and their masks that they were developing in the 70s and into the 80s, right? The human masks. Well, they got that and more. They've literally got things that you can put over your hand that they discuss, okay? And it will create a different fingerprint for biometrics, and it will even exude actual hand oils or finger oils that would come from your body. You think this is science fiction? Buckle the truck up. I just did an almost 7-minute intro. This one's going to be a long one. This one's important. I need you to thumbs the video up, subscribe, and share, because all that sounds like science fiction, Jason. That can't be real. Well, we ain't Kansas anymore. And if you're not following Annie Jacobson and you haven't read her work, she's the masterclass. I'm barely the Cliff Notes. I get to editorialize more because I've read their white papers that go beyond just the subject matter that she's talking about in these books. And she tries to ride the line. I'm not riding the line. I'm going to lay it down. Okay? So if you're not following me on Rockfin, now's the time to make that free Rockfin account. Uncensored Mixed Martial Mindset with John Fitch. An extra 30, 40 minutes of stuff that we could not talk about on YouTube. Make the free account. Go check that out. Same with the Eric Clapton video. Same with the Bartlett video. Anytime you see uncensored in front, that's a video you're going to want to watch on Rockfin. And again, if you make that free account, we're marching towards 20,000, but I'd love to hit 17,000 by the end of the weekend. I want to thank Odyssey for backing up my YouTube channel. You never know, we could be taken off. We're supposed to be losing another strike in 5 days, but we had the channel taken down for an hour in April, and guess what? We have no idea how it came back. All the documentary films are free. You want to know about the National Programs Office. You want to know about the shadow government. Fabled Enemies talks about it big time, because 9/11 was that event, and it shows you this international intelligence operation that goes well beyond just the United States deep state. Loose Change Final Cut. Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. All free right here, right now. Let's do it, because, this came out yesterday, and this should be making a big splash all around different sects of the alternative media, okay? Obviously InfoWars should be jumping on it, but Jimmy Dore should be jumping on this as well. You should be seeing this absolutely everywhere. Anybody with any kind of legitimacy should be covering signature reduction, which doesn't even really have a definition. By definition, it's so classified. So let's do it. Let's get into it. And let's read it all. The largest undercover force the world has ever known is the one created by the Pentagon over the past decade. Now, they talk about the past decade, but that was just taking that infrastructure I discussed through Homeland Security, the fusion centers, the private organizations that they were employing, right, into this new network that they legitimized. Some 60,000, let me repeat that, 60,000 people now belong to this secret army, many working under masked identities and in low profile, all part of a broad program called signature reduction. The force, more than 10 times the size of the clandestine elements of the CIA, carries out domestic and foreign assignments, both in military uniforms and under civilian cover in real life and online, sometimes hiding in private businesses and consultancies. See, these consultancy agencies. Nice contracts. Boom, 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 huh? Some of them household name companies. Weird. So this, again, shows you how the military-industrial complex is invested in these big box stores, and the consolidation of power is here. You see that? You understand? This is total techno-fascism. It is the technopoly. Believe the hype. The unprecedented shift, it's not unprecedented, it's been a gradual shift in your face if you've been paying attention, has placed an ever greater number of soldiers, civilians, and contractors working under false identities, partly as a natural result in the growth of secret special forces, but also as an intentional response to the challenges traveling and operating in an increasingly transparent world. The explosion of Pentagon cyber warfare. Now remember, they're training these people how to be invisible on the internet, but we have to believe Russia when there's a gas shortage. Remember that narrative as well. Moreover, has led to thousands of spies who carry out their day-to-day work in various made-up personas. The very type of nefarious operations the United States decries when Russian and Chinese spies do the same. Newsweek's exclusive report on this secret world is the result of a 2-year investigation involving the examination of over 600 resumes, 1,000 job postings, and dozens of FOIA, Freedom of Information Act requests, and scores of interviews with participants and defense decision makers. Now, obviously, there are no links to these resumes or job postings. I would love to see what they got through the FOIA. I'd love to see the documentation behind this. What emerges is a window into not just a little-known sector of the American military, but also a completely unregulated practice. No one knows the program's total size. And the explosion of signature reduction has never been examined for its impact on the military policies and culture. Congress has never held a hearing on the subject, and yet the military developing this gigantic clandestine force challenges U.S. laws, the Geneva Conventions, the Code of Military Conduct, and basic accountability. Let's get to basic accountability. You thought you had freedom, you thought you had a Constitution and Bill of Rights. They don't think so. And if, again, the last year hasn't shown you that, come on, man. The signature reduction effort engages some 130 private companies to administer the new clandestine world. Dozens of little-known and secret government organizations, dozens, support the program, doling out classified contracts and overseeing publicly unacknowledged operations. Altogether, the companies pull in over $900 million annually to service the clandestine force, almost $1 billion that we know of. And remember, the black budgets are a lot more, so don't even think that that's actually a real number. That's through their FOIA, okay, period. And by the way, we don't even have 100 thumbs up. I'm going to need you to thumbs this one up. I'm going to need you to share this one with everybody because it's pretty important. They are doing everything from creating false documentation and paying the bills and taxes of individuals operating under assumed names to manufacturing disguises and other devices to thwart detection and identification, to building invisible devices to photograph and listen in on the activity in the most remote corners of the Middle East and Africa. Special operations forces constitute over half the entire signature reduction force. The shadow warriors who pursue terrorists in war zones from Pakistan to West Africa, but also increasingly work in unacknowledged hot spots, including behind enemy lines like North Korea and Iran. Military intelligence specialists, collectors, counterintelligence agents, and even linguists make up the second largest element. Thousands deployed at any one time with some degree of cover to protect their true identities. And they actually get into one of these signature reduction soldiers, and they give them a name. Again, this is a long one, guys, so buckle up. We're reading it for you because it's so important. This is not one you want to skim through. This is not one where you just want to read the headline. All right? The newest and fastest growing group is the clandestine army that never leaves their keyboards. Boom, 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 boom. These are the disruptors. These are the trolls. These are the people that are trying to keep a narrative and keep you away from the truth. They work hand in hand with the fact checkers and big tech. That's what's not in this. Okay? These are the cutting-edge cyber fighters and intelligence collectors who assume false personas online, employing non-attribution and misattribution techniques to hide the who and the where of their online presence when they search for high-value targets and collect what is called publicly accessible information, which is just about everything. Which is just about everything, guys. You're on your little boop boop phone and a boop bop boop bop doop bop boop bop boop. Everything publicly accessible. Yeah, keep taking 27 selfies a day for Instagram and spend an hour in front of your phone doing TikToks, kids. Or even engage in campaigns, here it is, to influence and manipulate social media. Oh, that should totally be legal. I'm so glad this is happening. Hundreds work in and for the NSA, but over the past 5 years, every military intelligence and special operations unit has developed some kind of web operations cell that both collects intelligence and tends to the operational security of its very activities. Hence, they're all doing it. And shout out to Jamie Deluxe in the comments section, guys. Does great work, obviously. I know a lot of you are very, very aware of his activities. I mean, this article is totally... Listen, for a mainstream article, I would liken this one to the Time Magazine article, talking about fortifying the election. This is how hardcore it is. In the electronic arena, a major task of signature reduction is keeping all the organization and people, even the automobiles and aircraft involved in the clandestine operations, masked. After all, there's cameras everywhere, guys, right? There's tolls everywhere. There's CCTV everywhere. They want to make sure that even the vehicles have different license plates on them, et cetera, et cetera. This protective effort entails everything from scrubbing the internet of telltale signs of true identities to planting false information to protect missions and people. As standard, unforgettable identification and biometrics have become worldwide norms. The signature reduction industry also works to figure out ways of spoofing or defeating everything from fingerprinting, as I mentioned before, and facial recognition. Okay? And by the way, we got a Rockfin tip from Rachel. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Let's see. To ensuring that undercover operatives can enter and operate inside the United States, manipulating official records to ensue that false identities match up. So they get into someone's database, they can manipulate official records. Great. Just as biometrics and real ID are the enemies of clandestine work, so too is the digital exhaust of online life. One major concern of counterterrorism work is that in the ISIS age. Ooh, ISIS. I like how it's no longer the Al-Qaeda age. We've at least moved on from that almost 20 years later. It's the ISIS age. You know, I guess same brand, different flavor, except for they fight each other. Is that military families are also vulnerable. Another reason, participants say, to operate under false identities. The abundance of online information about individuals, together with some spectacular foreign hacks, has enabled foreign intelligence services to better unmask fake identities of American spies. Signature reduction is thus at the center of not only counterterrorism, but is part of the Pentagon's shift towards great power competition with Russia and China. Competition, influence, and disruption below the level of armed conflict, or what the military calls warfare in the gray zone, a space in the peace-conflict continuum. First of all, conflict's not going away. Spycraft is not going away. I understand that. But this gray zone has been set up against us. We're the terrorists. DC is militarized right now. Still, we got a zombie in there. We're still under medical martial law throughout the country. If you've been watching my videos about what's still happening to children in schools in some of the freest states of the Union, yeah, we got problems. And they got a secret army. One recently retired senior officer responsible for overseeing signature reduction and super secret special access programs, remember we were talking about those special access programs in the beginning, that shield them from scrutiny and compromise, says that no one is fully aware of the extent of the program. How about that? Nor has much consideration been given to the implications for the military institution. How about that too? Everything from the status of the Geneva Conventions, where a soldier operating under a false identity can be captured by the enemy, to congressional oversight is problematic. Isn't that great? Problematic. Now we're using millennial, non-gender specific language. Problematic. No, it's fucking tyranny. Like, no, it's not problematic. We have branches of government for a reason. We should have congressional oversight on these people because they've been proven monsters and liars and warmongers time and time again. And seemingly unprosecutable. And that is problematic. Like, my God. It's ridiculous. It's circus sideshow stuff. He worries that the desire to become more invisible to the enemies not just obscures what the United States is doing around the world, but also makes it more difficult to bring conflicts to a close, which they don't want, not until they get their nice little global governance package and vaccine passports and social credit scores and the automation nations coming in, right? The UBIs everywhere. They don't want conflicts to come to a close. They want to act like they're your saviors as they consolidate power and enslave you through totally unconstitutional, anti-human practices against their own citizens like this one. Most people haven't even heard of the term signature reduction, let alone what it creates, he says. The officer spoke on the condition of anonymity because he is discussing highly classified matters. Yes, he is. So what you're looking at right here is a vehicle being retrofitted so that they can pretty much intercept cell phone, walkie-talkie signals. But as you're going to learn later in this, they actually are able to put that inside the uniforms of some of these soldiers or just clothing, and they can pick up cell signals through the clothing, right? And other signals as well. The Secret Life of Jonathan Darby. I like the name Darby. I always thought that if I was going to be an Irish folk singer, my stage name would be Darby Carmichael, and we'd be doing it Darby style. But that's a whole nother story. Just trying to interject a little humor, folks. Every morning at 10 a.m., Jonathan Darby embarks on his weekly rounds of mail call. Darby is not his real name, but is also not the fake name on his Missouri driver's license that he uses to conduct his work. Oh, not his real or fake name. Great. And the government car he drives, one of a fleet of over 200,000 federal vehicles owned by the General Services Administration. 200K vehicles for these people. Is also not registered in his real or his fake name, and nor the magnetically attached Maryland state license plates really for his car. Nor are they traceable back to him or his organization. This is great. I love the accountability. I mean, my goodness. Where Darby works, and the locations he visits are classified. I bet they are. Darby's retired from the Army, and he asked that neither his real nor his cover name be used. He served for 20 years in counterintelligence, including 2 African assignments, where he operated in low profile in Ethiopia and Sudan, masquerading as an expat businessman. Expats are people that leave the country, and then expatriates is the longer word. You see that a lot of people go to South America when they leave the United States and they no longer want to be a citizen. Now he works for a Maryland-based signature reduction contractor, of course, that he asked Newsweek not to identify. As Darby makes his rounds to some 40 or so post offices and storefront mailbox stores in the D.C. metro area, he picks up a trunk full of letters and packages, mailing a similar number from rural addresses. Back at the office, he sorts through the take, delivering bills to the finance people and processing dozens of personal and business letters mailed from scores of overseas locations. But his main task is logging and forwarding the signature reduction mechanisms, as they are called, passports, and the state driver's license for people who don't exist, and other papers, bills, tax documents, organization membership cards that form the foundation of fake identities. Do you get it? I would bet where he works, the vast majority of the people have no idea what they're doing. In fact, I'd say the vast majority of their work has nothing to do with this. But this dude's the turd in the punch bowl. Darby. Okay? He's the guy that makes it work behind the scenes, that has access to all these databases and the tools to manipulate them so that they can process all these fake documents that are real documents. To register and double check the authenticity of his daily take, Darby logs into 2 databases. The one, Travel and Identity Document Database, the intelligence community's repository of examples of 300,000 genuine, counterfeit, and altered foreign passports and visas. And the other, the Covert Acquisition Management System, a super secret register of false identities where the mechanisms used by clandestine operators are logged. For false identities traveling overseas, Darby and his colleagues also have to alter databases of U.S. immigration and customs to ensure that those performing illicit activities can return to the United States unmolested. For identity verification, Darby's unit works with secret offices at Homeland Security and the State Department, as well as almost all 50 states in enrolling authentic mechanisms under false names. A rare picture into this world came in April 2013 when an enterprising reporter at Northwest Public Broadcasting did a story suggesting the scale of this secret program. His report revealed that the state of Washington alone had provided hundreds of valid state driver's licenses in fictitious names to the federal government. The existence of the confidential driver license program, as it was called, was unknown even to the governor. Isn't that lovely? No congressional oversight, no oversight by the governor, no oversight at all. That's America. America. You like it? You can just get out. Before the internet, Darby says, before a local cop or a border guard was connected to a central database in real time, all an operative needed was to be undercover with an ID that was genuine with his photo, right? That's it. These days, however, especially for those operating under deep cover, the so-called legend behind an identity has to match more than just a made-up name. Darby calls it due diligence, the creation of a trail of fake existence, fake birthplaces, home addresses. They have to be carefully researched. Fake email lives and fake social media accounts have to be created. And those existences need to have corresponding friends. Almost every individual unit that operates clandestinely, special operations, intelligence collections, or cyber, has a signature reduction section. That's how big this program is. Mostly operated, again, by the small contractors conducting due diligence. There they adhere to what Darby calls the 6 principles of signature reduction: credibility, compatibility, realism, supportability, verity, and compliance. Compliance is a big one, Darby says, especially because of the world that 9/11 created. You know that world. That post-terror world where it was really a almost global coup d'etat. Forget about just this country. I mean, we're not the only ones with interests in the Middle East, right? Just saying. And we're not the only ones that were like Al-Qaeda. Thumbs it up, by the way. Let's get 200 thumbs up. Can we do that? To keep someone covert for real, okay? Well, actually, where checkpoints are common and nefarious activity is more closely scrutinized. Okay, so to keep someone covert for real and to do so for any period of time requires a time-consuming dance that not only has to tend to someone's operational identity, but also maintain their real life back home. As Darby explains it, this includes clandestine bill paying, but also working with banks and credit card security documents to look the other way as they search for identity fraud or money laundering. Hey, don't look here for the money laundering or the identity fraud. This gives these people carte blanche to create any crime they want. And then as they get caught, stop the investigation altogether. That's what this is. Do you not? I mean, that's nuts. Why do we allow this? Because most people have no idea this is the system we live under. They have no clue. They're lost. They're gone. They got porridge in their heads, right? They're still parroting terms like safe and effective right now. Safe and effective. And then signature reduction technicians need to ensure that real credit scores are maintained and even real taxes and Social Security payments are kept up to date so that people can go back to their dormant lives when their signature reduction assignments cease. Darby's unit, called the Operational Planning and Travel Intelligence Center, is responsible for overseeing much of this, and to do so, it operates the Pentagon's largest military finance office. But documentation, as important as it is only one piece of the puzzle. Other organizations are responsible for designing and manufacturing the custom disguises and biometric defeat elements. This is where it gets James Bondy, okay? Mission Impossible-y. To facilitate travel. Darby says this is where the special access programs are. SAPS, the most secret category of government information, protects the methods used and the clandestine capabilities that exist to manipulate foreign systems to get around seemingly foolproof safeguards, including fingerprinting and facial recognition. So there's a shoe. Obviously, there's something in the shoe here. We got another hard drive in the bottom of this. There's some things happening right there, okay? So signature reduction is a term of art. These people think they are artists. I mean, my goodness. Numerous signature reduction SAPs, programs with names like Hurricane Fan, Island Hopper, and Peanut Chocolate are administered by a shadowy world of secret organizations that service the clandestine army. The Defense Program Supply Activity, Joint Field Support Center, Army Field Support Center, Personnel Resources Development Office, Office of Military Support, Project Cardinals, and the Special Program Office. That's just some of them. Isn't that nice? I mean, again, I'm so glad the media is telling us about this. Took 2 years for Newsweek to point this out, and where is it being featured? Seriously, why isn't this all over the place? I really hope that people start talking about it and we talk about dismantling at least the part against, us. The people they're now labeling as domestic terrorists. Openly. Befitting how secret this world is, there is no unclassified definition of signature reduction. Oh, thank you so much. The Defense Intelligence Agency, which operates the Defense Clandestine Service and the Defense Cover Office, says that the signature reduction is a term of art, one that individuals might use to describe operational security, OPSEC, measures for a variety of activities and operations. In response to Newsweek queries that point out that dozens of people have used the term to refer to this world, DIA suggests that perhaps the Pentagon can help. But the responsible person there, identified as a DoD spokesperson, says only that as it relates to that's human intelligence, those operations, signature reduction is not an official term, and that it is used to describe measures taken to protect operations. Remember when Area 51 didn't exist and wasn't an official base? Now we're like, nah, signature reduction isn't an official term. Another senior former intelligence official, someone who ran an entire agency and asked not to be named because he is not authorized to speak about clandestine operations, says that signature reduction exists in a twilight between covert and undercover, covert and undercover, covert and undercover. The former, defined in law, is subject to presidential approval and officially belongs to the CIA's National Clandestine Service. The latter connotes strictly law enforcement efforts undertaken by people with a badge. And then there is the Witness Protection Program, administered by the U.S. Marshal Service of the Justice Department, which tends to the fake identities of the lives of people who have been resettled in exchange for their cooperation with prosecutors and intelligence agencies. The military doesn't conduct covert operations. The senior former official says the military personnel don't fight undercover. That is, except when they do. Either because individuals are assigned, aka sheep-dipped, to the CIA, or because certain military organizations, particularly those of the Joint Special Operations Command, operate like the CIA, often alongside them in covert status. Office of Naval Intelligence, CIA. Right? Want to talk about the term sheep-dipped? Why don't you look into a guy named Tim McVeigh and James Corbett. James Corbett did an excellent piece on, this guy, Tim McVeigh, who may have been sheep-dipped. We don't talk about that, though. That's not something we should be really talking about, even though the evidence is there. And, I briefly cover it in Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined. But that could never be happening, right? Oh, it happens? Oh, and they lie all the time? They're completely unaccountable? Wow. Huh. Where people who depend on each other for their lives don't know each other's real names. Then there are an increasingly number of government investigators, military, FBI, Homeland Security, and even state officials who are not undercover per se, but who avail themselves of signature reduction status like fake IDs and fake license plates when they work domestically, particularly when they are engaged in extreme vetting of American citizens of Arab, South Asian, and increasingly African background who have applied for security clearances. So now we're going to talk about some of the digital tech here, right? And you'll notice there's a little picture below, right? And you see like this old school cell phone, and everybody laughed at that when it came out, and they're going to talk about that. But, wigs may seem goofy when they're not on a person, but with the rest of the persona, it is a lot different. And then phones like that, well, they're not phones like you think. In May 2013, in an almost comical incident, more reminiscent of get smart than skilled spying, Moscow ordered a U.S. Embassy third secretary by the name of Ryan Fogel to leave the country, releasing photos of Fogel wearing an ill-fitting blonde wig and carrying an odd collection of seemingly amateurish paraphernalia. 4 pairs of sunglasses, a street map, a compass, a flashlight, a Swiss Army knife, and a cell phone. So old, one article said, it looked like it had been on this earth for at least a decade. Okay? There's that little cell phone right there. The international news media had a field day. Many retired CIA people decrying the decline of trade craft. Most of the community opining how we'd moved on from the old world of wigs and fake rocks, a reference to Great Britain admitting just a year earlier that indeed it was the owner of a fake rock and its hidden communications device, another discovery of Russian intelligence in Moscow. 6 years later, another espionage case hit the news, this time when a jury sent former American military intelligence officer Kevin Patrick Mallory to 20 years in prison for conspiring to sell secrets to China. This was nothing particularly unique about the Mallory case, the prosecution making its own show of presenting the jury with a collection of wigs and fake mustaches, looking like Halloween costumes, the whole thing seemingly another funny episode of clumsy disguise. And yet, says Brenda Connolly, not her real name, one would have to be naive to laugh too hard, for both cases provide a peek into the new tricks of the trade and extreme secrecy that hides them. Connolly started her engineering career at the Directorate of Science and Technology at the CIA and now works for a small defense contractor that provides the gizmos. Think Q in the James Bond movies, she says, for signature reduction operations. So again, it's a privatized organization outside of the CIA making gadgets, giving them plausible deniability. That ancient Nokia phone carried by Ryan Fogel, she says, was nothing of the sort. The innocuous outside's concealing what she calls a covert communications device inside. Similarly, entered into evidence in Mallory's case was a Samsung phone given to him by Chinese intelligence that was so sophisticated that even when the FBI cloned it electronically, they could not find a hidden partition used to store secrets, and one that Mallory ultimately had to reveal to them. How about that? Lost in the spy versus spy theater of both cases were other clues of modern signature reduction, Connolly says. Fogel also carried an RFID shield, a radio frequency identification blocking pouch intended to prevent electronic tracking, and Mallory had vials of fake blood provided by China. Connolly would not reveal what it was would be used for. The fake blood, I have no idea. Maybe if he had to fake his own death, or some other kind of a scenario where he has to appear that he's bleeding. I have no idea. And then they maybe have to take that blood and do things with. I'm speculating there, but we've all seen the pouches, the RFID pouches, right? Those are very real, been around a long time. Like many people in this world, Connolly is a connoisseur and curator. She can talk for hours about the broadcasts that have used to go out from the Soviet Union, but also were transmitted from Warrenton, Virginia, female voices reciting random numbers and passages from books that agents around the world would pick up on their shortwave radios and match to prearranged codes. So they'll use old technology like shortwave technology, tune into a certain station. It's going to sound like gibberish or just somebody reading a book to some people, and it's going to be code to another. Okay, that's old school. But again, still being utilized. But then, internet cafes and online backdoors became the clandestine channels of choice for covert communications, largely replacing shortwave, but not altogether. Until their surveillance technologies, especially in autocratic countries, caught up with intelligence agencies, acquired an ability not only to detect and intercept internet activity, but also to intercept every keystroke of every activity on the remote keyboard. Now, we've talked about the keystroke technology. Later on, they're actually going to bring up what? Vault 7 WikiLeaks. And that data dump gave us a window into some of the things that they're using in this secret army. By the way, thumbs it up, subscribe and share. Can we get 250 thumbs? Can we do it? And I want to thank all the rock finners out there. You guys completely and totally rock ski and hutch. I want to make sure that people are going over there for the uncensored stuff and making that free account. On the road to 20,000, let's hit 17,000. All right, let's continue on. I told you this was going to be a long one, guys. That ushered in today's world of covert communications, or CovCom. and as insiders call it. These are very special encryption devices seen in the Fogel and Mallory cases, but also dozens of different burst mode transmitters and receivers secreted in everyday objects like false rocks. So again, that's a brick. All an agent of operator needs to activate communications with these CovComs, in some cases, is to simply walk by a target receiver. How about that? And I want to thank Dave Westfall for that tip right there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see. And the clandestine messages are encrypted and transmitted back to special watch centers. You see what I'm saying? They just walk by it. And you would think that those and who do you think implants those devices? Connolly asked rhetorically. Military guys, special ops guys, working to support even more secretive operations. Connolly talks about heated fabrics that make soldiers invisible to thermal detection, electric motorcycles that can silently operate in the roughest terrain. Often, how tens of feet of wires are sewn into native clothing. There's the tens of feet of wires we were talking about, sewn into native clothing. And South Asian shalwar kameez, the soldiers themselves then becoming walking receivers, able to intercept nearby low-power radios and even cell phone signals. We discussed that in the very beginning of this. Fake hands, fake faces, wigs, covert communications devices, fake rocks. In our world of electronic everything, where everything becomes a matter of record, where you can't enter a parking garage without the license plate being recorded, where you can't check in for a flight or a hotel without a government-issued ID, where you can't use a credit card without the location being captured, how can biometrics be defeated? How can someone get past fingerprint readers? Now, before we get to fingerprint readers, everything else they described in there are the tools they had and used against people that were at the Capitol. Right? 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 They admitted to all that. They checked your hotel records, your credit cards, all that. All that. But remember, they didn't get the pipe bomber. They didn't get the pipe bomber. In 99 out of 100 cases, the answer is there is no need to. Most signature reduction soldiers travel under real names, exchanging operational identities only once on the ground where they operate, or they infiltrate across borders in places like Pakistan and Yemen, conducting the most dangerous missions. These signature reduction missions are the most highly sensitive and involve close-in intelligence collection, or they use miniaturized enemy tracking devices, each existing in their own special access programs. Missions that are so sensitive, they have to be personally approved by the Secretary of Defense. For the 1%, though, for those that do have to make it through passport control under false identities, there are various biometrics defeat systems, some physical and some electronic. One such program was alluded to in a little notice document dump published by WikiLeaks in early 2017 and called Vault 7. Over 8,000 classified CIA tools used in the covert world of electronic spying and hacking. It's called Express Lane, where U.S. intelligence has embedded malware into foreign biometrics and watch list systems, allowing American cyber spies to steal foreign data. Okay? To steal foreign data. An IT wizard working for WikiLeaks in Berlin says the code with Express Lane suggests that the United States can manipulate these databases. Imagine for a moment that someone is going through a passport control, okay? And I believe that's someone wearing it right there. He says hesitant to use his real name because of the fear of indictment in the United States. I mean, yeah, look what they've done to Julian Assange. Look what they've done to WikiLeaks. You can't report the truth. NSA or the CIA is tasked to corrupt, change the data on the day the covert asset goes through, and then switch it back. It's not impossible. Okay? And that is the silicone hand sleeve. Right there. You can't really even tell there's anything on there. Okay? Another source pointing to a small rural North Carolina company in the signature reduction industry, mostly in the clandestine collection and communications field, in the workshop and training facility where they teach operators how to fabricate secret listening devices into everyday objects. They are the cutting edge, or so their promotional materials say. A repository for molding and casting, special painting, and sophisticated aging techniques. Yes, the Hollywood-style aging techniques. This quiet company can transform any object, including a person, as they do in Hollywood. A silicone face appliance sculpted to perfectly alter someone's looks. They can age, change gender, and increase body mass, as one classified contract says. And they can change fingerprints using a silicone sleeve that so snugly fits over a real hand it can't be detected, embedding altered fingerprints and even impregnated with the oils found in real skin. Asked whether the appliance is effective, one source who has gone through the training says, "If I tell you, I'll have to kill you." Of course it's effective. In real life, identity theft, mostly by criminals intent on profit, remains an epidemic that affects everyone. But for those in the intelligence and counterterrorism worlds, the enemy is so actively engaged in the efforts to compromise personal information. In 2015, the Islamic State posted the names, photos, and addresses of over 1,300 U.S. military personnel, instructing supporters to target and kill the identified individuals. The FBI said that the release was followed by a suspected Russian hacker. Suspected Russian hackers who masqueraded as members of ISIS and threatened military families through Facebook. It's always Russia, 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 ISIS, 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 but there's no way to tell who really did it. They're suspected. Why should I trust the intelligence community? We barely know after 2 years that this technology exists and there's a war on American citizens with every tool possible. Why should I trust them? Have I been given a reason? Because I missed it. I absolutely missed it. We know everything about you, your husband, and your children. One menacing message said. Counterintelligence and OPSEC officials began a large-scale effort to inform those affected, but also to warn military personnel and their families to better protect their personal information on social media. The next year, ISIS released 8,318 target names, the largest ever release, until it was topped by 8,785 names in 2017. Again, ISIS, Russia, I don't know. It was revealed that the military personnel sharing location information and their fitness devices were apparently revealing the locations of sensitive operations merely by jogging and sharing their data. Of course, everything is track trace database and can be hacked. The rapid deployment of new and innovative information techniques enhances the quality of our lives, but also poses potential challenges to operational security and force protection. No shit. U.S. Central Command said in a statement at the time on the Washington Post. Come on. Then came the DNA scare. You ready for this? All you 23andMe's out there? And by the way, can we get 250 thumbs up? Maybe 300. I know we only got 300 people watching. But if we get 300 thumbs, that'd be great. That'd be great. Please share this information. And, please, please, please share this information and share this article especially with people. Have people actually read it, though. And if they're not going to read it, send them the video because I'll read it for them. That's why we're doing this. This is the DNA scare. You ready? Where Admiral John Richardson, then Chief of Naval Operations, warned military personnel and their families to stop using at-home ancestry DNA test kits. Be careful who you send your DNA to, Richardson said, warning that scientific advancements would be able to exploit the information, creating more and more targeted biological weapons in the future. Really? Huh. Wow. Biological weapons in the future. Wow. And indeed, in 2019, the Pentagon officially advised military personnel to steer clear of popular DNA services. Exposing sensitive genetic information to outside parties poses personal and operational risks to service members, said the memo, first reported by Yahoo News. Huh. How about that? We're still in the infancy of our transparent world, says the retired senior officer, cautioning against imagining that there is some identity gap similar to the bomber gap of the Cold War. We're winning this war, including on the cyber side. Even if secrecy about what we are doing makes the media portrayal of Russians, again, look like we are at least 10 feet tall, like they are 10 feet tall. So they're alluding right there that Russians aren't the issue. They talk about, or they've got them on check. Winning the war against the people on the cyber side, because that's how I feel, it's bad news brown. He admits that processing big data in the future will likely further impinge on everyone's clandestine operations, but he says the benefits to society, even narrowly, in just making terrorist activity and travel that much more difficult, outweigh the difficulties created for military operational security. No, you're creating a nightmare, unaccountable force in a techno-fascist world. And you're targeting American citizens. You make me sick. The officer calls the secrecy legitimate bullshit, but says that the Defense Department leadership has dropped the ball in recognizing the big picture. The military services should be asking more questions about the ethics, propriety, and even legality of soldiers being turned into spies and assassins, and what this means for the future. Still, the world of signature reduction keeps growing. Evidence says the retired officer that modern life is not as transparent as most think. And that is it. We read the whole thing. I hope that you guys get it. I hope you understand why this was so important. Please go check it out yourself. Share it with friends. Let them know they're not in Kansas anymore. You can support my work by checking out the links down below. At Jason Burmis is the Venmo. JasonIsVoid@yahoo.com is the PayPal. Go make the free Rockfin account right now. And again, you're going to get all the uncensored videos that we can't talk about on YouTube, right? They get cut short. So at least the free account. If you do make a premium account, then you get all of my premium stuff and then everybody's premium stuff. Literally access to everything on the Rockfin. And now, for you preemies out there too, with the Android app, you can actually download episodes. And you can shut your phone off like this and listen to everything podcast style, which is also super cool, especially for something like this, right? There weren't a lot of visuals in this one. This would make a pretty good podcast and was right around an hour long. So again, this is a great place to support me. Please check out all the documentary films. They are free in the playlist section. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. I love you guys, and I will see you on the flip side.